Hey guys, today we're going to talk about unemployment. Now we've already talked about what it means to be employed and what it means to be unemployed. Remember, the biggest difference is, yes, you have to be 16 years of age to be unemployed, but you have to be actively looking for a job. Remember, it doesn't count discouraged workers. But today specifically, we're going to talk about the different types of unemployment. How are unemployment rates determined? What is full employment? So, let's talk about the types of unemployment. First, we have frictional. Frictional is when people get laid off from their jobs, their current jobs, or they could be finishing their school. These people are basically just laid off. They are still looking for work, but they are in a time. You see this one big during a recession when people are all actively looking for jobs, or there's a big downturn and people are let go. Those are all aspects of frictional employment. So again, when somebody gets laid off from a job or are currently looking. Then you have structural unemployment. Structural is when their job skills don't match, such as, think about the factory workers when they used to be, all my job was to pick up a tire and put that tire onto the car. Well, eventually computers do it. And if you don't have the skills to understand how to work that computer, well, then you're no longer needed to put that tire on that car. So therefore, that would be structural unemployment. Their skills do not match. Then there's seasonal. You all are probably prime examples of this, but because how many of y'all get a job during Christmas time to help work at one of the retail stores? Maybe you wrap gifts, maybe you sell items, but a lot of seasonal workers happen. Also think about the deadliest catch, when fishing is only big to them in that season. If that season's out, they're currently technically unemployed. So seasonal unemployment always exists, by the way. People are always looking for jobs during those seasons. And finally, cyclical unemployment. Unemployment rises during economic downturns, when falls and when the economy improves. So literally, it's always going to go up and down and go throughout these various cycles. In general, by the way, the nation's unemployment rate is a great factor. So we already talked about GDP. We use GDP. We want to know how we're doing, but an unemployment rate is another huge factor. Do people have jobs? And unemployment rate also can affect GDP, because GDP only works if we have what? And the answer would be money. And money only happens if we have a job. So having a job allows us to buy things, allows GDP to go up, and so literally they naturally work with each other. Now, unemployment rate is the percentage of a nation's labor force that is unemployed. So we're going to actually talk about specifically what that rate is. But before we get there, we will talk about full employment as a level of employment reached when there's no cyclical unemployment. We actually technically will always have about 5% of the workers, 4 to 6%, or 5 roughly, where will always be unemployed. And that is because of your seasonal and your cyclical unemployment. They're always going to exist, people without job. Also, you have people who are underemployed, people who are overqualified or working part-time, but want full-time work. You see this a lot of times when people are looking for jobs because the market's out. I had a friend of mine who works at Ruby Tuesdays, yet he has a master's degree. He definitely would be underemployed. And then remember, discouraged workers, people who want a job but have given up looking for one. And again, discouraged workers are not counted for what? That is correct. They are not considered unemployed. All right, so we're going to come back real quick, and I want to show you some different aspects of unemployment. So again, we've already talked about GDP, but GDP is not the only factor that fluctuates. We talked about business cycles shows how GDP works, but again, now unemployment. Again, unemployment is the conditions who are willing and able to work but do not have a job. The civilian labor force is defined as the total number of people in the working age group of 16 or plus. Actively seeking work is the big part. So we have to figure out how to solve it. And this is going to be on your test. All right. The unemployment rate is the percentage of civilian labor force that is considered unemployed. And it is calculated by taking the number of unemployed divided by the overall civilian labor force. So let's solve one of these. We'll actually do one of your worksheets. Number 15. In a nation, 5.8 million people currently have jobs, and approximately 1.2 million people are actively seeking work. What is the unemployment rate? So we would take, all right, again, the formula states unemployed divided by the civilian labor force. So we would take 5.8 plus 1.2, which equals 7 million. Then you want to know the people who are unemployment rate. So we would take 1.2 divided by 7, and the unemployment rate would be 17%. Wow, that's an economic system that I do not want to live in. All right, now I want you to go ahead today and solve the rest of the various macroeconomic questions, all dealing with unemployment rate. Before you do that, I do have a couple more slides that we're going to go through. All right, 1, unemployment hurts the economy. Obviously, if there are people who are out of job, doesn't help your GDP. But another aspect is high unemployment rate leads to high crime, high disease rate. Matter of fact, birth rate actually goes up. Countries with low unemployment have one of the highest birth rates ever, and it seems to be a perceptual problem. But lots of crime, lots of disease, and so that's why countries and states go out of their way to help try to fix the employment rate and to build it up. Again, we already talked about the various types of employment. But remember, full employment is about 95% because of frictional and seasonal. So what can we do to help reduce it? 1, education and training. Why do you think we have Hope scholarships? Or every state tends to have various training requirements. Also, matching skills requirements to jobs. Lowering minimum wage does increase jobs. I know a lot of people don't like that one because it's saying lowering, but remember we talked about minimum wage can actually affect the amount of people being hired. And increase aggregate demand. All right, guys, so be ready when I come back into class tomorrow. I want to know what it takes to be considered unemployed. I want to know the 4 types of unemployment and why we will never, and what is the percentage of full employment and why we'll be at that percentage. And don't forget, I want you to answer questions all related to the unemployment rate.